Hello Year 11, welcome to your next lesson on the cosine rule. Today we are going to be focusing on finding missing angles using the cosine rule. So very similar, just with a couple of different steps in. First thing I want you to do is, using what we did last lesson or any previous knowledge that you have, can you please find the missing side of the triangle in front of you? Okay, so pause the video and can you find that missing side for me, please? Okay guys, right, let's have a look then. So, I've got the triangle in front of us. We're going to use the cosine rule to do it. That's what we looked at last lesson. So, first thing, we need to label our triangle up. If we've got a missing side, we normally want to label that A. Makes our life much, much easier. So, the angle will be A, B and C can be either way around, it doesn't matter too much. Okay, and then we're going to use our cosine rule. So, we've got A squared equals b squared plus c squared, subtract 2bc cos A. Okay. Now we need the angle opposite. We're given it as a box this time, therefore it's 90 degrees. And we can sub in. We don't know what A is, so we'll just leave that as a question mark squared. B squared, so 14 squared is 196. 7 squared will be 49. Subtract 2 times 14 times 7 times by cos of 90. Put that through our calculator, so we do 196 plus 49, subtract 2 times 14 times 7 times by cos 90, and we will get 245. Always got to remember to square root at the end, so we square root our answer, and we will get 15.65 meters. Now, there is another way we could do this, and we normally use the cosine rule if it's a non-right angle triangle. Okay. Now, what we've actually got is a right angle triangle here because we know it's 90 degrees. Therefore, if we're finding a missing side of a right angle triangle, we can always use Pythagoras instead. Okay, so some of you may well have spotted that and used Pythagoras instead. So, square the 14 to give us 196. Square the 7 to give us 49. We're finding the missing side, which is the longest side. So, we'll add the two together to give us 245. Square root that answer, and we will get 15.65 again. So, make sure you are being really careful what triangles you are given. Okay, if it is right angled, we can always go back to Pythagoras and our basic trigonometry. Okay, so new bit today, finding a missing angle. So in order to do this with the cosine rule, you will have to be given the three sides. Okay, so in order to find the missing angle, okay, you have to have three sides already. It's the only way it'll work. Okay, bit like with the sine rule, you have to have a matching pair and then the second part of the bit you're trying to find. With this one, you have to be given three sides to find the missing angle. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to call the angle that we are trying to find A again. Okay, just going to make it easy because it means we can use that formula straight away. Label up the other ones as you want to, and make sure you label the corresponding sides accurately. And again, all I'm going to do is substitute into my formula. So we have 11 squared equals b squared, which is 12 squared, plus c squared, which would be 13 squared, subtract, remember your brackets again, 2 times 12 times 13, because that's b and c, times by cos of, we don't know. Okay, now we'll leave it as a this time. So what we're going to end up with is an equation to solve. Now, I do want you to try and do this in stages. Do not try and put this into your calculator straight away. By all means, use your calculator, but make sure you're pressing equals for each little bit. So let's work out the bits that are nice and simple first. So 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144. 13 squared is 169. We'll do subtract. 2 times 12 times 13 will give us 312. Cos A. Now, if I need to find A at the end, I know I'm going to have to, somewhere along the line, have cos A equals something. Okay. Now at the moment that cos A is negative. I'm going to want it to be positive. So what the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move my 312 cos A to the other side. Okay. What I'm also going to do is move my 121 back the other way. Okay. So all I'm going to do is effectively swap them over. So I'm going to have 312 cos A equals 144 plus 169, but it's going to be subtract 121. Because remember, when it moves from one side to the other, the sign will change. So all I have done, okay, is taken my minus 312 and my 121 and moved them over. Now I can work out the bits that I've got. So I'll have 312 cos A equals 144 plus 169, subtract 121, gives me 192. To get to cos A, I'm going to need to divide both sides by 312. So divide by whatever that coefficient is, which will give me 192 over 312. Leave it as a fraction, guys, far more accurate. If I know that cos A equals that, in order to find my angle at A, I'm going to have to do cos to the minus 1 on both sides. So I end up with cos to the minus 1 of 192 over 312, which will give me a final answer of 52.02 degrees. Okay, there is a lot more working involved with this, guys, because you've got to do a little bit of balancing in here as well once you've set it up. Okay, that's why I want you to make sure you use the calculator each time. You're pressing equals lots of times and you just work out little bits and write your new line out each time. Make sure when you swap them over, you will always make that swap. As long as you label your triangle accurately, you can make that swap around with your cos and your bit at the start, divide underneath, and then we can inverse cos to get our answer. Right, let's have a look at another one. I'll give you another example and then you can have one to do. So, new triangle. First step, always with these, whenever you've got to find missing stuff with a triangle, whether it's right angled or not, is label your triangle. Now, if it's a non-right angled triangle, we want to label it A, B, and C. Obviously, if it's using a right angled triangle, we label it with our adjacent, our opposite, our hypotenuse. With this, my missing angle, I always want to label as A. B and C can be however I please. I label my corresponding sides. Okay, remember the ones that are opposite of the same letter. Then I can substitute in. So, A is 5, so we'll have 5 squared equals 11 squared plus 15 squared. Subtract 2 times 11 times 15 times by cos of whatever's missing. Again, back to our calculators and we'll work out all the little pieces. So I'll have 25 equals 121 plus 225. Subtract 2 times 11 times 15. So subtract 330 cos of A. Again, we're just going to do the little addition as well. 25 is going to equal 346 minus 330 cos A. Now I can do my little switch. Okay. So I'll do my little switch where my 330 goes one way, my 25 goes the other. So I will end up with 330 cos A equals 346 minus 25. So 330 cos A is going to equal 321. Divide underneath by 330, so we can have cos A on its own. So we will have cos A equaling 321 over 330. So finally, inverse cos both sides. So we'll do cos to the minus 1 321 over 330 into our calculators, and that will give us an answer of 13.41 degrees. Really, really shallow angle. Okay. Same process to follow. First of all, label your triangle. Second of all, substitute in. Work out all your little pieces as much as you can. Then you're going to have to move some around, rearrange parts to get it so that you've got cos A equaling something. Then we can inverse cos both sides. Right. Can you pause the video now for me, please? And can you have a go at the triangle in front of you? So find that missing angle. Pause now and have a go, please. Okay, guys. Right, let's have a look. First thing, label the triangle. So always label the one you're trying to find as A. Don't forget, if you've got multiple of these in one question, you can always relabel them. Okay, you can always relabel A's, B's and C's. That doesn't matter. B and C can be whichever ones you want, and label your opposite sides with the same letters. Now we'll sub in again. So A squared equals B squared plus C squared, subtract 2BC cos A. The more you write it down, guys, the easier it's going to be to remember. Okay, it might well be worthwhile if you write it down every single time you do one of these questions. It means that you'll remember it a little bit easier. Now we can sub in. So we'll have 6 squared equals 8 squared plus 10 squared. Subtract 2 times 8 times 10 times cos of our angle. Work out all our little bits. So we'll do 36 equals 64 plus 100 minus 160 cos A. So we've got 36 equals 164 minus 160 cos A. Now we do our little switch. So we're going to move our negative 160 cos A that way, 36 that way. Obviously they appear on the other side as the opposites because you do the inverse to swap them. So we'll go 160 cos A equals 164 subtract 36. So we end up with 160 cos A equals 164 minus 36, which will give us 128. Divide underneath. So we're going to divide both sides by 160. So we'll do cos A equals 128 over 160. Keep it as a fraction, it makes it much easier. We can inverse cos both sides, so we'll end up with cos to the minus 1 of 128 over 160. Through our calculators, and we get the final answer of 36.87 degrees. Okay. Same process to follow each time, guys. Just got to make sure you follow it through correctly. Right. Last one I want you to have a go at. So again, pause the video, have a go, and let's see where we get to. Okay, guys. Right. Last one then. So, first step, always label up. Missing angle always as A, B and C either way round. And then label your opposite sides correctly. Write out cosine rule. Okay, the more you write it out, the easier it's going to be to remember. And then we can sub in. So we go 16 squared equals 9 squared plus 12 squared. Subtract 2 times 9 times 12 for B and C times by cos A. Work out as much as you can. So 16 squared gives us 256. 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144. Minus 2 times 9 times 12 to give us 216 cos A. Again, work your next bit out. So we'll do 81 plus 144 to give us 225 minus 216 cos A. Going to do our little switcheroo. So we're going to swap our negative 216 and our 256. When they appear on the opposite, they go with the opposite signs. So 216 cos A is now positive. 256 is now negative. So we'll end up with 216 cos A equals negative 31. That's absolutely fine. That's not a problem at all. So divide both sides by 216. And we will end up with cos A equaling minus 31 over 216. Inverse cos both sides. Cos to the minus 1 of minus 31 over 216. Gives us an angle of 98.25 degrees. So we'll have a bit of an obtuse angle. Okay, does not matter if this comes out as a negative. What it certainly shouldn't do is come out as anything above 1. So you should never ever have a top heavy fraction here. Okay, but negative is not an issue. Right, please check back on to show my homework and see what I've asked you to do. By all means rewatch, make sure you've written all of the examples down as well for me please guys. Have a go, get in contact if you need any more help.